So you have a road bike and you're not tubeless and you need to change a tube. We're going to show you how. Let's get on topic. Hey everybody, it's Thomas with Get Out Arizona, and you are watching another great episode of Toolbox Topic. I'm joined once again by my co-host Brandon Van Leuven. Brandon, how are you?
Pretty good.
Nice. And once again, we're coming to you from Czech Bicycle Stores at West Phoenix in Goodyear, Arizona, because it's where the cool kids hang out, huh? And me. And today, I'd like to dedicate this video to my good friend Obi-Wan. Yes, for all those people, all those roadies who are still riding tubed tires. Yep, Brandon's one of them. This video's for you and him too, because I'm hopefully to getting him to, by doing this, he'll switch to tubeless. I don't know why I'm so against tubes. It's my bias, I guess.
All right.
I'm too biased.
Hello, Tobias.
Too biased. At least it's not tuberculosis.
So let me tell you why I don't run.
And just to guys let you know again, full disclosure, we're going to be shooting all B-roll with the iPhone again. Thank you, Small Rig, very much for the setup. But yeah, so for different reasons, we're using the iPhone again. Okay,
so let me tell you first why I do not have tubeless tires.
Okay.
I think that a lot of people do love them, and that's just fine for everybody else. Mm-hmm. What I don't like about tubeless road tires is we have a very small volume of air, and we have fairly high pressure. Now the pressures are coming down. Now that the tires are getting bigger, we're running lower pressure. But when they first
before it used to be 110, 120.
Yeah, around there.
And now we're down to 70.
But it's 70s and 80s and 90s,
yeah.
Definitely. But still, we have a very low volume, and still, compared to a mountain bike, pretty high pressure. Mm-hmm. So what happens if you get a big enough strike or big enough damage in your tire? It's getting all over you. It's getting all over the guys that you're riding with. So I spare my bike, and I spare the people around me from getting sprayed with tubular sealant.
Thank God I ride alone.
Not tubeless sealant. So that's why I still ride tubes. I'm perfectly happy. I've been riding tubes my whole life, so it's not a big deal.
So Brandon's no longer allowed to play the game.
Now, mountain bike, I'll scream all day long, up and down.
Right.
Absolutely, 100% on the mountain bike. I think it's more effective. I think it seals up faster, is more effective, and it doesn't get everywhere, in my experience, like the road tubeless does.
Okay.
But let's skip all that mumbo jumbo, shall we? And
skip all that mumbo jumbo.
I have a flat tire.
You got a flat tire.
A simulated flat tire. So we'll get started.
Okay. So we got to open up and we got to do the whole do. Brandon, give me a transition and a clap on 3, 2, 1. Yeah.
So a couple things you're going to need that I carry with me all the time. Now, I typically have mine in a little pouch that goes in my back pocket on my jersey. Mm-hmm. Carry a tube. I always carry an 80 millimeter tube. It's more than I need for my bike, and it's probably more than most people will need. But say you're riding with a guy with a deep dish rim, an aerodynamic rim. At least if he doesn't have something, or he flats out twice, or she, you can help out. 80 millimeters will fit in anything for the most part. That's reasonable. So I always carry an 80, just so I can be prepared. I always carry this Genuine Innovations regulator. I use a threaded CO2, so all I need to take with me is the top part, the trigger part, my CO2, and I carry one Bontrager tire lever with me. I also carry a little bit of cash money with me in that same pocket, but otherwise, this is all I take on my rides. And
the cash money's for the hooker, by the way.
All right. And she's real cheap too, because it's only a few bucks. So be prepared with that stuff. You got your flat tire. Come on out, check it out. Mm-hmm. So when you take the rear tire out, and if I am being wise, as I feel that flat tire coming on, if I have time, I'll already start dumping my gears to my high gear. So we want to start off by being in your 11 tooth in this case, so that it's easier to remove the wheel, and you'll see in the moment it's easier to both also reinstall the wheel here in a moment. So cool. And hopefully you got some friends with you that can help hold the bike up while you're doing this. That helps a lot.
You know what else helps a lot, Brandon? Hitting like, subscribe, and the bell notification icon. Da-ding. Because we appreciate you guys.
So I'm removing it off my high gear there, and now I have the wheel set to go. The first thing I want to do is break the bead on one side only. And we'll see, I don't remember how tight this tire is here. I'm using Vittoria Rubino Pros, which have been a very good tire for me. And the reason that I'm riding these are because
What happened to your gator skins?
Were not available. It was COVID time.
Ah, okay.
So these were the ones that were available, and I've been
The dark days.
I've been very impressed by
Okay.
these tires. They roll well. They've had pretty decent protection. Not the same amount as the gator skins, but they do pretty well.
Good deal.
So here we go. I've broken the bead only on one side. You only need to remove one side of the tire when doing this.
Okay.
Now I'll grab my tire lever. Get inside
Now,
here.
if you're wondering why we're not doing this up on the bench, guys, is because on the road, you're not going to have a bench.
Right. So I'll take one side of the bead off, and now bead off. Remove the tube. And now here is probably the most important part about this. So now I'm going to inspect my tire. Excuse me. I'm going to go through, I'm going to first look around the outside, see if there's any debris that I can identify and remove. And now, very carefully, I'm going to go run the inside of my hand on the inside of the tire as well to make sure there's no debris sticking out.
Okay. Yeah, be careful when you're doing this, guys, so you don't fillet your finger open on whatever punctured your
And it
tube.
happens. That's
It
why I
does.
always go away from me so that maybe I can see what's coming up. Mm-hmm. So, say I found my piece of debris, I'll crack it off on the back side. I'll remove it from the top side. Now it's very important that you're going to check your rim strip on the inside to make sure that all the nipple holes are fully covered.
Yeah, Lord forbid something's wrong with your nipple holes.
So just
can cause some
might as well
issues.
while you're in there.
Well, yeah, well, hey, you know, I'm going to link the video up top because we talked about that and issues that we see at the bike shop.
So say I've already removed the thing that's causing the damage. I've inspected the rim strip. I'm ready now to install my new tube. So again, I have this. Typically, I don't carry the box with me when I'm riding, so it's pretty much ready to go. Here's the 80 mil. Now it's nice to give it some shape before you start reinstalling it into the tire. When you keep these guys, always keep the cap on. These guys are sharp, and after transporting a number of times, it could potentially damage the tube, and now you're riding around with a tube for no good reason. So keep the cap on while you're transporting it. I don't always use a cap once they've been installed, but once it goes in and out of your back pocket a number of times, it could potentially damage your tube. So the nice thing about Presta is I can inflate and just give it a little bit of shape just by blowing into it, by loosening the valve.
All right.
So now I've given some shape. Now close it back up because you'll lose it pretty quickly.
It's like a balloon animal.
It is. Now if you have a Schrader valve tire, or excuse me, tube, I keep saying that, you'll have to use either your hand pump or maybe just a quick shot of your CO2, whatever you prefer to use. Now, pro tip, making sure that your logos are all lined up nice and even.
Right.
I'll start with the valve. And now that it has a little bit of shape to it, I can just work that tube in around the inside of the tire.
Yeah.
Again, removing
Really
the
nice and easy, guys.
removing the tire is just a waste of time. Keep it on the wheel. Now, here's where things always get fun. I'm always going to start reinstalling that other side of the bead away from the valve. What we want to do, if you think of the shape of a rim, of rims, I'm exaggerating, but rims are V-shaped. So if we start away from the valve, we can use that V, that little gully, that V shape, and put the bead inside there so that it's, as we tighten up, as we get closer to the valve, it's actually making the diameter of the wheel smaller so that it's easier to put the tire back on. I hope that makes sense. So I'll start opposite side of the valve, just reinstalling the bead here. And it's been pretty easy so far. We're doing okay. This is always a little bit of a hand workout. So now we're getting tighter. So what the tip now to do is to now use that the shape of your rim and pinch the bead to the insides. If we're on the outside where to the outside of the rim, we are gonna increase the diameter of the we're not increasing. How's the best way to put this? You're not giving yourself the most amount of room to play with. Let's put it that way. So, and then I can also, to give myself a little more room too, remove that air that I've already put in there. So by pinching it down to the center, this now is giving me all kinds of room, and now this becomes a very easy job, and I don't have to use my lever. If I don't have to use my lever to put it back on, that's really, really good. Now, if you do have to use a lever because it is so tight, maybe you have a bad rim tire combination, do not go all the way up with it. I only go maybe 3/4 to half away, because you don't want this to damage your tube and pinch it as you're reinstalling. And you can go around a couple times and just make sure that it's all in that a little gully. And look how easy that is to put on now.
Man, like a champion.
So, super easy.
Yeah.
Now, I'll always inflate, just in case things go wrong. I always inflate before I put it back on the bike, just in case that tube is punctured or something goes wrong.
You don't have to take it back off again. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
On. So follow me. So we've talked about this before. I use CO2 because I'm a spoiled brat. I don't want to be out there with a pump. I don't want to take a pump with me, and B, I don't want to be out there pumping while it's 110 degrees outside.
All right.
So again, this is my favorite inflator. This is by Genuine Innovations, and it has a trigger on it and it has a lock on it, which I really appreciate. So if I'm installing, there's no way of accidentally releasing some of the CO2. It's going to get cold. So now I've firmly put the CO2 on there, and I'm going to just work this onto my valve. Once I feel like I'm pretty confident that I've checked and all the bead is all nice and set around the wheel, I'll unlock my trigger, and just a little bit at a time. Just a little bit. And then I'll inspect. Your valve is going to freeze up a little bit as well.
Yep.
So I got probably 20, 30 pounds in there right now. Let's just go through, double check, make sure this bead is sitting on there all nice, and I feel confident about that. So let's finish the job. Now I'm never going to use the entire CO2. Hear the bead popping on the rim. What I'm going to do is make sure. Now this is this is not very precise, but I'm just going to feel this. If I can get myself home on the pressure that's in there, it's time to go home now. I've used my tube, I've used my CO2, so now let's start booking home. Let's not push our luck. Once I get home, I'm going to make sure I release this guy. There's always going to be some left over. I always have some left over because you never know how much is going in there. So let that out. And then what you want to do is replace the CO2 that you have put in your tire with real air. Use your pump, put some real good old polluted oxygen from our atmosphere in there. Because what happens is if you leave the CO2 in there, for whatever reason, now I'm not quite sure of the science behind it, but from what I understand, the molecules, I guess, are smaller in CO2, and so they will bleed through the tube and the tire faster. You will wake up to a flat tire the next morning if you leave CO2 in there. So be sure to replace it when you get home. Now it's time to put it back on the back on the bike. So I got enough to get me home. I feel good about that. Now, if you'll remember, we changed gears, put it onto our 11 tooth before we left, so that when we put it back on, we can go right back onto that 11 tooth, and it lines up with the caliper and it lines up with my dropouts real nice and easy.
Yeah.
Now, it's always a struggle when you're out there by yourself. You kind of look a little goofy trying to get a rear wheel back on, but you can do it. You might get a little dirty. Just have some patience. Give it a little spin, make sure the brakes aren't dragging, and while we're talking about that, be sure that when your brakes are off, if you have hydraulic brakes, do not squeeze your brakes while you're out there with the wheel removed from the bike, because
You'll be
the
out of
brakes
luck.
will lock up and you won't be able to get home at all. So give it a little bit of spin, and make sure your brakes aren't rubbing, make sure your chain is fully engaged on there, and get your ass home.
All right, Brandon, take us home with the transition. Get us out of here. 3, 2, 1. All right, my friends, so we're back to the A-cam. You could see that the tire's installed. Brandon, thank you for that amazing demonstration on how to do it.
Amazing.
Now, of course, we're in a shop, we're in controlled conditions. If you've been riding long enough, like Brandon and I, this will happen to you when it starts raining, or it's just in the worst possible scenario. It's a night ride or something along those lines, something that's going to make it more tenuous. And those circumstances do occur. But what you need to remember is the process is the same, no matter what, when we're changing out that tube. And for those who are wondering, Thomas, is it a lot different doing it for a road bike versus a mountain bike? Well, we're going to do a video on that one too, so you can see firsthand and judge for yourself. We're going to keep you guys in suspense. So. Brandon, anything else you want to add before we close out?
No, it's all good. It just takes practice.
Yeah.
If you don't do it a lot, if you've never done it before, I would suggest watch the video and try it at home. Use the same tube over and over again.
Yeah.
It's okay. Just give it a couple times. So
it's not like a condom. You can reuse it as long as there's not a hole in there. So
you can't reuse them?
No. Oh. Been lucky all these years, huh? Joking, guys. But you can practice with the same tube, yes. You're not going to damage the tube or anything like that. Yep. And it's nice because now when it happens out on the road, you're not surprised. You know exactly what to expect and how that functionality is going to happen. So, all right, like, subscribe, bell notification icon. Why? Because it's the trifecta we love so much around here. Helps out the channel, helps out the video. Links down below. Most important one, Trek Bicycle Stores, West Phoenix and Goodyear. Call Brandon. Call one of his amazing team members. If you don't want to ask your question down below in the comments, that's the avenue to take. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, the devil's work. Necessary, though, to get the word out for Get Out Arizona. Group hikes, group rides, whole lot of fun, my friends. Affiliate links, okay? We need them. Helps out with park passes, gas money, coffee money, the other trifecta that's amazing around here. We get a small commission. You're not charged anything extra. Super easy to help out. So, on that note, my friends, what do we always say? Be kind to yourself and others. Be amazing stewards on the trail. And we have to ask, what are you waiting for?
Get Out Arizona?
We'll see you on that next adventure. Take care, everybody. Brandon, we'll see you next week, man.
For sure.